Welcome to Today in Atlanta Sports. Jake, I'm joined by at Can't Guard Jake Gordon. How are you doing today? We had some big news. Deion Jones has been a hot topic of our podcast, and it looks like he's probably not going to be traded anymore. It was broke at the first day of OTAs that he had shoulder surgery and he'll miss the rest of the offseason. Now, you could take that as two things. One, he's going to be traded or cut, very soon, and this is like a smoke screen. Or, he's injured, and the likelihood is, that's what caused his decline in play, and the Falcons are kind of stuck with him for 1 year. What do you take this as? I kind of think there's no choice but Deion Jones being on the team this year, and they're just seeing what he can do.
Yeah, he definitely looked injured, and they have another year after next year. I guess see if he can play. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be ready for the start of the season. They described it as a cleanup. I don't know, but if it's just a cleanup, then you could probably still trade him. So I really don't know. We need to figure out what the extent of the injury is. But so far, I mean, there was always a chance that they weren't going to get an offer for Deion Jones, and cutting him really wouldn't make sense. So.
Yeah, I mean, cutting him doesn't make sense. I do think they would get an offer, as we talked about on the podcast. They might have to eat some money, whether it's a few mil, but I mean, they're going to have to eat money anyways, and they've already eaten $70 million this offseason. So what's eating a little bit more and getting rid of this contract? I think that's the whole point. We're trying to get 2023 to look as good as it possibly can, and getting rid of Deion Jones's contract seems like the last piece to that. Yeah, I mean, the whole cleanup thing is what confuses me. A cleanup of your shoulder that happened right after the season, he should probably be ready. I mean, if it's just like a little thing, which would tell me that, he could be traded. But the fact that they're already declaring him out for the remainder of the offseason, and there's no timetables for return, it just kind of leaves us standing here with our dicks in our hand. We really have no idea what to expect out of this situation. My best guess is, he eventually gets healthy at some point, maybe by the preseason. I don't know. And they use him and hope that he's just a little bit better, and hope he can mentor some of the younger guys, like Troy Anderson, Michael Walker, and those guys. But as Jeff Schultz pointed out, he hasn't exactly been a leader in the locker room, which is part of the reason why we thought, or why Schultz, said that his trade was likely and imminent. So definitely a curveball in this offseason with this injury. And I don't really know where the Falcons go from here.
It's just disappointing, man. You look, they had a trade lined up for Calvin Ridley rumored for, what was it, pick 17, pick 15, whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was one of those first round picks of the Eagles.
Yeah, and then you talk about maybe, if you're lucky, getting a 5th round pick for Deion Jones, and that's probably combined $22 million. Like $22 million and 2 picks, that matters, and it just 2 really unlucky situations.
I mean, that was the AJ Brown trade, right?
Yeah, so the Eagles did way better, but
well, I mean, I think some people would say Calvin Ridley. I know he had kind of a bad year, and then he leaves the team and stuff like that. But 2 years ago, I think most people would say Calvin Ridley and AJ Green were on the same playing field.
AJ Brown, wrong color, but yeah.
What did I say?
You said green, not brown.
Oh, AJ Brown. Yeah, AJ Brown. I mean, I would say, yeah, AJ Green's definitely past his prime. I mean, I would have said 2 years ago. I mean, Calvin Ridley was second team All Pro. So yeah, he was right there in that class. But yeah, you lose out on a first round pick there. Who knows what the future with Calvin really looks? And now you lose out not even on the pick. It'd probably be a 6th or 7th rounder, but losing that money, getting rid of that money, and setting yourself up for 2023. That's really what we're losing out here without Deion Jones. But that wasn't the only bit of news we had from the first day of OTAs. This is a lot more interesting, a lot more promising. I think Avery Williams, and Alex, who's not here today, has mentioned it several times since he was drafted about, being a guy who can contribute on special teams, defense. He was a cornerback in college, and offense. Well, now, look, last year he played cornerback and returned punts and kicks. This year it looks like he's probably going to return punts and kicks, but he's also been moved to running back, which, well, what do you think about that? I think this is a guy, you got a playmaker here. Get him out in space and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't very much of a cornerback. No offense to the man, but I mean, I know that's just what he played in college. But I don't think it was very likely he was going to see many snaps at corner again. So I really don't see the problem. Somebody posted the measurements. He ran like a 4.41 at 5'9", 187 pounds. I mean, he looks like he's got the size. I know he's not that big of a guy. He's going to have to put on some strength. There's plenty of time for that. I'm sure they've been beefing him up already. This has probably been in the making. And he's probably just going to be like a smaller, agile back. And who knows, maybe he'll be some crazy success story. I like the Jamal Agnew comparison that Alex gave him though.
Yeah, they also signed James. Is it James? James
Jeremy.
McNichol, Jeremy McNichols, who spent time with Tennessee. So they added their running back room, which makes some sense to me because I have a feeling, with Calvin Ridley out of the picture, you only have a rookie in Drake London. The rest of the wide receiver room are kind of like glorified wide receiver 3s and 4s. I have a feeling they're going to use Cordell Patterson, who was really good as a receiver last year, as more of a wide receiver. So I think they're adding to that running room. You saw them draft Tyler Algier. I don't know how to say his last name, but the guy from BYU, I think he has a good chance of ending up being the starter. They brought in Damian Williams. You got Caleb Huntley, Quadre Olison. Now you have Jeremy McNichols and Avery Williams. So now you have a kind of a full running back room. Plus, I do think Cordell Patterson will get some snaps, but yeah, I think some good additions there. I'm not in love with any of the running backs, but I think that the thing with running backs and the Falcons is going to be like they're just going to bring in a couple and draft a guy in a 5th or 6th round, and that's how most good teams do it. They don't invest unless they just have a ton of talent across the board. That's more of a luxury pick if you take one early in the round. Just the good teams just take one in the 5th or 6th round, run them till their wheels fall off, and then just keep drafting them year after year.
Yeah, and that's the way I'd like it to continue to. We saw it last year. This kind of similar to when they brought in Wayne Gallman last year. Just some competition. Quadri Ollison's interesting. He's definitely on the roster bubble. Maybe Caleb Huntley could take that spot from him. But the locks right now, really, it's probably just Algier and Patterson if you still want to call him a running back. Damian Williams is probably pretty safe. He's probably pretty safe.
I think Damian Williams is safe.
Did they give him a 1 year or did they give him a 2 year?
I think it was just a 1 year, but it might have been a 2 year. I think it was just a 1 year.
I don't know why I think they gave him a 2 year, but regardless, I still think he's pretty safe. I think the locks that were Algier and Patterson, I'd say Williams is like 90% safe. So,
yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, but the only other OTA note that I found was interesting was Dean Pease saying, he talked about Micah Walker, who's obviously going to have to step up with Deion Jones being out this offseason. Who knows if he's even going to play this season. Micah Walker could be the best linebacker on the field. I think him and Rashaan Evans are probably the favorites to start. You'll mix in Troy Anderson there, maybe on passing downs until he's ready to become a 3-down linebacker. And Dean Pease also said he feels this year, coming into his second year, he can actually get 100% of the defensive playbook in. Last year, he said he felt it was more around 60. I think that's important because when you talk about a guy like Pease, a lot of defenses, you look at Dan Quinn's, there wasn't a lot of sauce. It was just, hey, we're going to play, cover 2, cover 3, rush 4 and play zone. Dean Pease is a guy who likes to bring, blitzes from all over that. That's what makes him fun. That's what we were excited about when he came in. So I'm excited to see that in year 2. And you got a lot of athletes. The Falcons really focused on athletes in the draft. You have a lot of athletes on the defensive end that can make things interesting.
Yeah, I love this too. This is just like the classic showing up to camp in the best shape of your life, like Caleb McGarry is doing. So now it's just kind of like there's that little bit of intrigue where it's like, oh, maybe it's going to be different now. But I guess we'll see. I still think the Falcons will field a mediocre at best defense, but I still like a lot of their draft picks. But they're young guys. It's going to take a year or 2 before they really can start having a respectable defense.
Yeah, I definitely think mediocre is a nice way of putting it. I would definitely say below average. I mean, they're going to need a ton of these young guys. I mean, you're talking about Malone. Why we have the hardest names to say? I've got to learn some of these guys' names. Ibikite. How do you say the guy from Penn State's name? The second round. I mean,
I think it's Ebiketie.
Ebiketie. I mean, I swear to God, I was because I focus on the Braves and usually write about the Braves, and Alex is always writing about the Falcons. And I'm like, damn, you have to type out all these names. Like, how do you remember how to spell these? I'd be so.
We have Adi is literally like a
Ogundeji.
Yeah.
Ogundeji. So it's like I'm like, damn, how do you remember these? It's like trying to spell Antetokounmpo. I can't even say it.
I literally do every time. If I have to type out Giannis's full name, I literally just go to Google and copy and paste.
Oh yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You have to go to Google for half of these names. But yeah, you're going to have to get a ton of contributions for them in the pass rush, especially if they don't bring on anybody new. I mean, Lorenzo Carter is your best pass rusher right now, at least the most proven guy. The only thing that you feel really good about is the cornerback room. I think the cornerbacks of the Falcons are going to be really good. Safeties, you're going to probably be relying on a lot of Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant, hopefully. I mean, that's if those guys can establish themselves as starters. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to be talking about a ton of young guys learning a new system over the last 2 years. I just below average is definitely what I'm expecting. So if they happen to be average, I'm going to be very happy.
Yeah, and another thing too is while I do like the cornerbacks, especially, I'm glad they brought Isaiah Oliver back. Casey Hayward's health is not guaranteed, and that's something that might become an issue at some point. Especially you talk about moving out Avery Williams. There's not much behind him.
Yeah, that's right. I was just trying to think who even is behind him, like outside behind Oliver. You know,
I did it the other day. The guy they brought in, I think he was a UDFA last year. I'll look for a second, talk about something else.
Yeah, I don't know. That was our last Falcons topic. But anyways, we are going to talk about the Braves because I hate to be the guy who after 2 wins is like, oh, I think they're turning the corner. Because I don't know as a team if a hot streak is around the corner. They've won 2 in a row. They've looked well doing it. But I've always said if the bats can get going, this pitching staff's so good, the wins are going to start piling up in bunches. And when you look at what's going on up and down this lineup, Dansby Swanson, I mean, I wrote an article. He's like a MVP candidate, borderline. And all of his production's come over the last 30 games. He has like a 946 OPS over his last 30 games. He's tremendous with runners in scoring position. He's been arguably the best shortstop in baseball all season long. But beyond him, Ozzie Albies, I think he's on a 7 or 8 game hit streak now. He's hitting like 380. He had a huge at bat last night where he battled back from 0-2 to break through to bring in a run. Who else? Marcell Ozuna, another guy on a hit streak. I think he's up to 8 or 9 games. He's red hot. Austin Riley had a big homer. William Contreras, I mean, this guy can't stop hitting. He had another homer last night. If Matt Olson and Austin Riley can come back consistently and hit like we know they can, and Ronald Acuna gets healthy because he's been playing well when he's on the field, it does feel like the Mets should be like looking behind their shoulder, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And real quick, by the way, it's Mike Ford and Darren Hall are the other two. Mike Ford was the one I was blanking on. Yeah, Mike Hall.
I'm interested to see if he does anything this year. I mean, I guess he'll be the team's 4th corner.
I think he's more of a slot guy, but Ford is the other one they brought in last year. I don't remember if it was the middle of the year, whatever, but he's been on the roster a while. That's besides the point. I really think last night it was one of those things where I said it during the game. I was like this team can do this every night. That's just what's really frustrating about it. A lot of it has been bad luck, poor timing, whatever. You can say whatever you want. Eventually it has to regress to the mean. And I think we're going to get a lot more games like this. But I was a big fan of what I saw last night. Another thing I said, I was like, dude, Adam Duvall's got a hit and a couple walks. Like, that's how you really know we're churning.
It's contagious, though. It really is. Like, it's unbelievable how a couple guys start hitting in the lineup, a couple guys get clutch hits, and the pressure off the guys who haven't hit. Adam Duvall was coming up in situations where, he didn't have to come up with a clutch hit in a tie game. There was no sweat on his back. We were up 2 runs. We're up 3 runs. The guys are hitting. The vibes in the clubhouse are good. It sounds ridiculous, but this is how baseball works. This is how teams win games. You play loose. You play without pressure. Hitting is contagious. It's ridiculous because it sounds like I'm speaking like some voodoo magic, but it's real.
No, you're absolutely right. And I'm a big believer in in taking the pressure off the next guy. And William Contreras has done a fantastic job at that. I think that's really been one of the bigger reasons. What we saw with Jock last year, dude, Jock would come in and hit a leadoff home run. And, he's having a good time cutting up. And all of a sudden things start turning around. Like, that's really how it works.
Shout out Jock Peterson for hitting 4 bombs in like 10 innings with like 11 RBIs against the Mets to lead to 2 wins. Yeah, I mean, God. I would love.
It's funny because on the podcast, I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, he started off really hot. He's hitting like under 100 over his last 15 games, and he goes out and hits 4 home runs. But that's Jock, man. That's how he's always been.
That's literally Jock. Well, the great part about him is like you just know like you're either gonna get all or nothing, and when it's all, like good luck. The other team isn't winning. Like he's flat out will win a whole game for you. And he came up like. Thing.
But when it's nothing, you're like, okay, well, he'll get it sooner or later. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. And he'll get it when it matters. Like, he'll get it in, like, big moments. Like, the guy's a stud. I definitely miss that, man. I already tweeted it out after the game. Like, we got to start the we got to start the free agency campaign now. So like he knows we want him back in Atlanta because
We're gonna
damn,
get
we are
Jock and
missing
Andrew
some.
Benintendi. Those are our two guys now.
I really like Andrew Benintendi, Ian Happ too on the trade market potentially. I'm actually working on an article. Like, don't tell anyone. This is like it's kind of a joke, but like working on like how I said bargain bin free agents could become a thing. Like, and I was just like, dude, like the Braves could bring back two guys, Julio Teheran and Ender Inciarte. Like, those are the definition of just bargain bin like trash cans that could come in and like Julio Teheran, he's got a 1.6 ERA in the independent league, bro. Like that's your Tyler Matzik right there. He's your fifth starter. People keep tweeting me their stats. People tweet their stats. I'm like, you know what? Like, what if they did? Like, what if they did just sign one of these guys and like brought him back? It would be kind of funny. I mean, they can't be worse than Travis Demeritte. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Ender Inciarte is significantly better than Travis Demeritte.
My favorite guy, like we talk about the stats, like there is one guy, his name's leaving me. I apologize. But he tweets me every time Travis d'Arnaud throws out a base runner. And he's like, oh, he nailed him there. And I'm like, yeah, man, he did.
I love that. Shout out Manny Banuelos too. How about
Yeah,
the
good for
boy?
him.
Joining Christian Betancourt. I mean, that's two former Braves that haven't like played since 2015, 2016. Back in the majors for the Yankees too, a team that has the most wins in the big leagues. So there's not going to be a lot of opportunities unless injuries strike. But who cares? I mean, the fact that the guy made it all the way back. He's played in China, Mexico, battled injuries. Crazy because remember back in 2015, we thought everybody was going to be the next star prospect, and they all were ass. Those were tough days.
Okay, so who's next? Who's next? My money might be on Luis Gohara.
That would be crazy. Is Luis Gohara even like? There's no way he's still playing.
I doubt it.
I mean,
Aaron Blair.
he was going through like family issues and gained like 500 pounds.
Dude,
Like,
best shape of his life.
I'm looking him up right now.
That's all he's got to do.
I think they're done with him, bro. Let's see, minor and fall league stats. Let's see if he even he pitched in 2018 in the majors. I haven't seen anything.
Was it Seattle?
Oh, it was actually the Braves. 5.95 ERA. He hasn't pitched since. No leagues, yeah. So I don't think it's Gohara. Aaron Blair would be hilarious. Talk about a guy who just got rocked. I mean, you think about guys like Matt Wisler and Lucas Sims. Like those guys came up with the Braves and were absolutely nothing. They've had like half decent like secondary.
They're both
careers.
relievers too, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just crazy. Those guys were all like our top prospects. Like I thought Matt Wisler was like Kyle Wright today. That's what I thought was going to happen. I mean, I was like, oh, he can throw 95 with a curveball. Like, it's like the majors have never seen a guy like that. Like, that's what I was convincing myself as. It was absolutely.
I mean, we got excited.
Those were nutty days. Those were nutty days, and it was also like right when we started the site.
Yeah.
Like
so we had to be excited.
We were looking for anything, and it was like the first time I was really evaluating prospects. So like I didn't know okay, like these guys could be really good for a week and just absolutely go to shit and just be out of the league for the rest of their lives. I didn't know. I had to learn the hard way.
I feel like the only miss that we've really had, I mean, we didn't develop him, but I really wish we still had Kevin Gausman, man. Jesus.
Dude, I bet if you go back to the 2015 archives, like I legit have like Matt Wisler is going to be a Cy Young guy.
Probably.
We'll check. I was also 17, so like y'all can chill if you're still listening to this. That should just become like a random rant about prospects that we used to know. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this episode of Today in Atlanta Sports. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will do a lot